Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by The Guild. I am Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. Let's take it to our first rumor. Could the Cowboys sign Johnathan Hankins? Well, I would like it, but it's not exactly likely. Just the one star on this one. Don't get your hopes up, folks. Now, if you follow Roto World, you saw them report that the Cowboys could make a move for Hankins. That was not right. The Cowboys have not shown any interest in Hankins so far, and even the report that Roto World cited said that. They just didn't read beyond the headline and didn't read beyond the should part. That's their issue there. We'll talk more about Roto World here in just a second. But don't expect the Cowboys to bring in Hankins. I would love the move, but the Cowboys don't view Hankins as an ideal fit, so don't expect any signings there, which is weird because they need a one technique. Hankins can play that role. They don't think he has the three technique qualities, even though he actually had some production in that area. So I want to know from you guys, do you want the Cowboys to bring in another defensive tackle? I absolutely think they have to. They tried to sign Terrell McClain, and as I'm sure you guys know, that did not happen because, well, he signed with the Falcons for a deal worth up to $4 million, so the Cowboys missed there. I want another defensive tackle, especially with Malik Collins' injury, which we'll get into more in a little bit. Next up, are the Cowboys quote-unquote atrocious at drafting? If you follow me on Twitter, you're not surprised with this one. This is a prime fake news example. Evan Silva of Roto World had a bit of a rough night on Friday. He was mad online and claimed the Cowboys are atrocious at drafting. And that is absolutely wrong by pretty much every metric out there. Since 2002, the Cowboys have 17 more Pro Bowls than any other team. And yeah, Pro Bowls aren't the best metric. How about all pros? Cowboys are second since 2000. Every article you'll find out there has the Cowboys, at least in the last 5 years, as one of the 5 best drafting teams, even if you include that awful 2012 draft. So Evan, stick to fantasy, man, because this is just wrong, and you kind of look like an idiot for saying it. Speaking of Evan Silva, what kind of started him was the Tavon Austin report, and I'm really surprised this has garnered so much traction. Now, Stephen Jones said Austin's going to get 12 to 24 touches per game, but this is also fake news. This just doesn't make any sense. Think of it from a pure numbers perspective. How are you going to get Tavon a dozen or 2 dozen touches per game unless the ball only goes to Austin and only goes to Zeke Elliott? Here's why this makes absolutely no sense. Zeke averaged about 27 touches per game. Dez and Witten combined had 14. How are you going to get Tavon that many touches per game? It's just not going to happen. I am convinced that Stephen Jones simply misspoke, and he meant snaps. And 12 to 24 snaps makes a lot more sense, especially when he wasn't including return game. So Tavon is not going to get that many touches. Let's stop freaking out about it. It's just not going to happen. If you're wondering what the stars mean here on the rumor report, or the rumor meter on the Cowboys report, here's what they mean. 0 stars. Fights OBJ 1 against the net. It's fake news. Don't buy it. Had 2 of those today. 1 star is a small shred of truth. 2 stars means people are talking firmly in that rumor category. 3 stars means it's pretty likely, not quite set in stone, but I think it'll happen. And 4 stars means Zeke's eaten. It's a fact. Let's get to number 4 then. Is there no more brace for Jaylon Smith? Now, we've mentioned this in the past, but it got reported again, so we'll mention it again. 4 stars, Smith is no longer using that brace for his drop foot, and that is a very big deal. That means the drop foot is healing. It's no longer an issue. And oh, by the way, Smith was better later in the season. Now, I think the Cowboys are going to try and rotate and let him limit some of his snaps with Leighton Vander Esch and Sean Lee, when all 3 guys are healthy. But I like to see this for Jaylon. The future continues to look bright for the very talented linebacker out of Notre Dame. To number 5 then, Malik Collins. Will he be back for week 1? Well, Collins broke his foot again, but he should be back for week 1. Frankly, should be back in the middle of training camp. So 3 stars on this one. Pretty likely. But I am now officially concerned about Malik Collins. This is the 3rd time he suffered a foot injury. Once before his rookie year started, once last year that required surgery, and now another broken foot that requires surgery. 3 times for Collins. That's a big concern for me. So I think he'll be back, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't back. But I just want to see him come back and stay healthy. He's shown some real promise as a 3 technique, even though Dallas makes him play the 1 technique role for some silly reason. He has some 3 technique promise, but he's got to stay healthy. The more he's hurt, the more it gives a chance for a guy like Jihad Ward to get more snaps for the Cowboys. We're going to discuss more defense here in a second, but first, a word from our sponsor, The Guild. Are the Cowboys trying to build more of a Seahawks-style defense? And this one also seems pretty likely. Chris Rashard is your new defensive backs coach, and he's also going to have a big role in the passing game. He is kind of replacing Matt Eberflus. He is going to be the passing game coordinator. And the move of Byron Jones to cornerback is just one of the examples here. The Cowboys are trying to have that length on the outside, which actually doesn't fit Chidobe Awuzie all that well. We'll mention him later on the show in the mailbag section. But the Cowboys are having some elements of that Seahawks-style defense, some of those cover 3 looks. I think it's a good move. Of course, we'll see how it ends up working. Now, with Rashard, he's very clearly being groomed to be the replacement for Rod Marinelli as DC. So I want to know from you guys, is that what you want? Do you want Rashard to be the Cowboys' defensive coordinator next year? I am okay with it. I like it. However, I'll add this caveat. It probably means that Jason Garrett is still your head coach next year, so take that into consideration when you discuss the future of Chris Rashard. All right, we'll keep it rolling now with some more rumors. Number 7, is the Cowboys' biggest need wide receiver? I'm just going to give this one the 1 star. There is a little bit of truth to it because wide receiver is a need. There is no number 1 guy. It's not T. Will. It's not Cole Beasley. It's not Mal Gallup, at least yet. It's not Allen Hurns either. But it's not their biggest need. Defensive tackle and, frankly, maybe even safety are bigger needs for the Cowboy. Defensive tackle was, I think, by far their biggest one there, as I mentioned earlier in the show. So I kind of get where Bleacher Report is coming from. They also mentioned Tavon Austin a lot, who's not really going to play a whole lot of wide receiver. He's going to be kind of that Lance Dunbar type scat back. So just the 1 star, and I think that's kind of actually being a little bit nice. Taking it out to number 8. Could the Cowboys keep 3 quarterbacks on their roster this year? 2 stars on this one. We'll see. The Cowboys will definitely consider it. And again, they drafted Mike White in round 5, and they like Mike White. They like White quite a bit. And I would not at all be surprised if the Cowboys keep Rush and White on the roster. Those 2 will definitely battle out for the backup quarterback role. It just depends on how they fare in the preseason. If they play great in the preseason, they're both going to make the roster. If one struggles, you could see one getting cut. You could try and see the Cowboys sneak somebody onto the practice squad, but with the way Rush played last year in the preseason, probably not all that likely. And then as for Mike White, well, 5th round pick, he might get scooped up by a quarterback needy team. So I would not be surprised if both those guys were on the active roster next year, but it depends on how they fare in the preseason. I think I know the answer to this question. I know you guys like Cooper Rush. Based on what we've seen, Rush is the better quarterback, but we'll see how Mike White fares. The Cowboys feel the same way when I say this. They liked White more than they liked Rush coming out of college, but of course, Rush was very good in the preseason. Final rumor of the day then. Could the Cowboys and Niners have joint practices? 2 stars on this one, not set in stone, but I think it could very well come true. Garrett has said he wants to have joint practices. He values those because it's different going up against other players from opposing teams than just going up against the same guys day in and day out. Keep in mind the Cowboys play the Niners on August 9th in the preseason. It makes sense on that end. So I would not be surprised if this goes down, but it's not quite set in stone. So keep an eye on for it here